We're so excited and honored to be the presenting media sponsor. I have to say ditto, 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 ditto. Everything that you heard before me, I 150% agree with, and there were amazing lessons learned there in each of those conversations. So what I'd love to do is take about 5 minutes, because I know we're running a little bit behind schedule, and unfortunately I do have to get back to the office for a meeting. I'm going to take the next 5 or 7 or 8 minutes and perhaps focus on a couple of things that are slightly different than what we've heard about. And I, too, like Kat, I'm going to kind of focus on my own personal story. But before I do that, I'm going to ask the audience a couple of sort of quick questions. Just show of hands. How many people here are children of immigrants or born in another country and, you know, came to the States? Yeah, almost everyone here, including myself. Also, out of curiosity, who here is, call it like 5 years out of college? Or grad school? Or maybe even high school? Okay, not me. And finally, how many of you are, I don't know, maybe in your first year of a new job or first, sort of still feel like you're in a new role at a new company, something like that? Okay, so that's kind of a common theme as well. And I'd also like to acknowledge some of my very awesome female colleagues who are in the audience today, so thank you for being here. So my little personal story is this. Of all the countries in the world to be born in, guess which one I was born in? Iran. Who said, did somebody say, guess that? Ah, very good, because of my name, right? When I was a kid in school, and they would go through the first day of school. This was a really long time ago when I was a kid in school. The first day of school, they'd go through, you know, the class, the kids, the teacher. And I'm Yasmin Namini, and NA, which generally after the M's, after, you know, whatever, Moriarty, Myers, I kind of knew the next one was going to be me. And every single teacher would say, oh, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce this one. At which point this shy little 6-year-old would have to raise her hand and say, that's me, Yasmin Namini. And the world has changed a lot because I meet a Yasmin or a Jasmine every day now. But I was born in Iran. I was 6 months old when we left. We went to Canada for about 13 months or so. We went to Morocco, long story. If anybody's interested, I'll tell you another time. We got to the States when I was about 4 years old. And the interesting thing, and I think for almost everyone in this audience, you raised your hands when I asked if you were either an immigrant, because I refer to myself as a zero-generation immigrant since I was born overseas. What is the one most important thing that your parents instill in you when you get to this country? Work hard, and there's another one. Education. Yeah, I see all the nodding heads. Education and hard work. I'm sure that's kind of an American thing too, but I will tell you that when you are the child of an immigrant, that's all you hear is be educated. You know, my dad, you know, God rest his soul, he passed away about 11 years ago. All he ever used to say to me, and he loved my mother, so this wasn't meant to be an insult, but my mom barely finished high school. He used to say to me, get educated, work hard, be independent, because I don't ever want you to be dependent on a man the way your mother is dependent on me. Is that a familiar story too? Yeah. Anyway, I went to college. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I have a master's degree in applied statistics. Why? Because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I have a master's degree in applied statistics from Villanova University because they did not require that I take a GMAT to get accepted. You'd think there'd be some easier degree than applied statistics that didn't require a GMAT. Way back then, I actually joined the New York Times when I was 24 years old. I just finished my graduate studies at the age of 24 because I had worked for a company before through school that did a lot of work for the New York Times, and way back then, if you had asked me, or if you had told me rather, that in the year 2014, I would be standing here in front of all of you as the Senior Vice President, Chief Consumer Officer of the New York Times, this is the daughter of Iranian immigrants, the first thing I would have said is, what the heck is a chief consumer officer? And then after you explained to me what that was, I would have said, no way, not me. So my very important lesson to all of you is that you have no idea at the age of, I was at 24 at that time. I had no idea, I didn't have all the answers at 24. I had no idea what I was going to be doing. And guess what? I didn't have the answers at 34. I didn't have all the answers. I started to have more of them at 44, and today at 54, I feel like I still don't have all the answers. And so I guess I want to sort of reinforce a message that I heard throughout some of the earlier conversations, and that is work hard. If education is important, you know, I actually am one of those people that doesn't believe that you have to have a formal education, meaning, you know, going to college and all those things, but education is important. However you learn to do new things, whether it's formal education, from people that you admire, reading, studying. One of the things that I love about working at the New York Times and that I say to all the people that come to join us is if you have to be the smartest person in the room, the New York Times is a terrible place to work. You'll hate it because everybody in the room is the smartest person in the room. So I love working with people who challenge me. I love all these new people that we've been hiring in the last few months because they're smarter than I am. I learn from them every day. You know, another message that I heard earlier that really resonated, I had it written down in my notes to share with you. Take risks. I always say it's easier to get forgiveness than permission. Now, don't go spend $1 million without your boss's permission. But it is easier to get forgiveness than permission. So take risks, calculated risks, but take risks. And the other thing that I always tell folks when they start is I give everybody, and the folks in this room who work for me know this, and there are some of you that have been around for not that long, so it'll really resonate. I always tell people that I give them 5 days to be new. On day 6, they're not allowed to be new anymore. And what I mean by that is you're certainly allowed to have a learning curve because you can't possibly know everything about a new company or a new job, even if it's the same company, in 5 days. But by day 6, I expect everyone to start contributing. Take a week, figure out where the cafeteria is, figure out where the restrooms are, figure out where the conference rooms are, get to know people, and spend time continuously getting to know people. Someone in the previous session mentioned, building relationships. That's really important. But on day 6, start adding value. You're no longer new. Start adding value. Think about it. How crazy does it drive you when a year into someone's tenure, they're sitting in a meeting and they say, well, you know, I'm still new, but you can't possibly be new after a year. The other thing that I think is really important is, 50% of your job is what your boss tells you it is. The other 50% of your job is what you make it. And so when you're thinking about new opportunities and you want to move ahead in an organization, you want to be further challenged, think about that. I don't know of a single good, excellent boss who would tell you that you can't do something that you want to do. So 50% of your job is what your boss tells you it is. The other 50% of your job is what you make it. And finally, I just want to reiterate that it's really important to advocate for yourself. It's really important to be confident, and there's a very fine line between confident and cocky, but get out there and be confident, and be open to new growth ideas and opportunities. Sometimes the ones that feel the most uncomfortable are the best ones. So that is my quick little story, because I think that in my many years, I just had my 30-year anniversary at the New York Times, and when I think back on over 30 years at an amazing, awesome, is there anybody here who doesn't know what the New York Times is? Good. So today, after 30 years, You know, it's pretty exciting to be standing here as the Chief Consumer Officer, and by the way, for those of you who don't know what that is, which is probably everybody in this room, I'm responsible for over 50% of the New York Times' revenues. I'm responsible for all of our consumer revenue, which today is 54% of the company's revenues. I'm also responsible for all of our marketing. But when I think back on that 6-year-old kid who used to cringe on the first day of school because I knew the teacher was never going to be able to pronounce her name, when I think back to trying to decide what to study in college, and by the way, I was a chemical engineer for 1 semester and decided I was going to blow up the chemical plant if I ever actually, you know, worked in that area. When I think back on actually getting a master's degree, and something that I really loved and enjoyed doing, but my motivation was I didn't have to take a GMAT. And when I think back to accepting my very first job at the New York Times when I was 24 years old, never thinking it was going to be a career, to imagine that today I'm standing here before you as the Chief Consumer Officer at the New York Times, responsible for 54% of the company's revenues, all I can say is if I could do that, anyone in this room can do that and more. So thank you very much and have a great conference.